Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining our webinar today, InspireXT Computer System Validation. We're famous by trust and recognized for our execution. We thank you for taking your time out of your day today to join us, and welcome all of those participants from all over the world joining us today to learn a little bit more about how we address computer systems validation in the highly regulatory industries such as life sciences, pharma, biotech, medical device manufacturing, and healthcare. We have a wonderful lineup and agenda for you today. Both Raul and I will be speaking on behalf of InspireXT about our computer system validation solutions that we have made available. I personally have over 25 years of experience serving clients, really quite an amazing journey. I look forward to working with you and helping you achieve success for your computer system validation initiatives. And I'd like to hand this over to Raul, who will now introduce himself.
Thanks, Dave, and hello to everybody. So I'm Rahul. I am with InspireXT for a few years now. I have around 13 years of industry experience working with mid-sized to large-sized pharmaceutical companies, and I've experience with validation of a range of computer systems for all the different GAMP categories.
Excellent. Thank you, Raul. So for today's agenda, we have really a power-packed 45 minutes. We believe you're going to learn quite a bit. We'll start off with what is computer system validation? I know many of you will already know what this is, but there might be a few audience members that would like to learn a little bit more. And what's the purpose of CSV? Why does it exist? And what are the benefits that come from it? And in today's world, there are a lot of challenges with validation, specifically around cloud, around AI, complex systems, and rapidly evolving regulations by the FDA, MHRA, and other bodies. So we'll speak to that on how you can address those challenges. And we do that by our risk-based methodology. And Raul will explain the various phases in this particular methodology. We leverage this methodology to mitigate risk for our clients when they're going through their validation processes. And I think you'll find some benefits there. And really a new wrinkle in the computer system validation forums, where continuous validation is now becoming the norm as cloud providers are rapidly pushing out patches on a quarterly basis, and sometimes more frequently. And those systems that were previously validated have to be validated again anytime that there's a significant change to the system. So we'll speak a little bit about what continuous validation is all about and what kind of best practices are there. And many people speak to best practices, but best practices can only be gleaned after having significant experience in this field, in many implementations and services that we provide. And Raul will cover some of those best practices over his extended career in computer system validation as an expert. We'll conclude, and then we'll have a Q&A. Just for the audience members, if you do have a question, please raise that in the chat. We will address all those questions at the end of the webinar, and we will also make available those questions and answers as we conclude here. So just a little bit about InspireXT. One, we are life sciences and pharma experts. We do cover some other industries like manufacturing, distribution, and retail. These are all core strengths of ours, and pharma and life sciences is one of our key industries that we serve. We provide supply chain solutions across the entirety of life sciences and pharma along with those other industries. And we cover everything from new product innovation all the way to customer engagement, along with planning, budgeting, and finance controls to accompany some of those solutions. As you can see from our technology foundation, we have quite a number of offerings. And in the bottom right-hand corner there, you'll see that validation and testing is one of our key offerings, and we're covering specifically the validations systems on today's webinar. But InspireXT is a remarkable story. In 6 short years, we have over 70 satisfied clients and almost nearly 200 members that have joined our team. We are in a rapidly growing SI, and we're looking to bring our offerings all across the globe. We have rapidly expanded into the USA, headquartered in the UK, with operations in the Middle East, India, as well as Singapore. So if you are a global institution, we're the right type of company to serve your global needs. We do have presence in all these different geographies to support you, regardless of where you might be located. From a partnership perspective, we have quite a number of partners. Our prominent partners are Oracle, Salesforce, AI, but we do work with all kinds of cloud providers and databases for computer systems validation. So if you happen to have your systems structured in AWS or Azure, in Google, Oracle OCI, or any of these public clouds, or even your own private cloud, we can support you with your computer systems validation requirements and needs. And I'll go ahead and turn this over to Raul, who will step into what is computer systems validation and how we can support you with these sort of needs moving forward. Raul?
Yep. Thank you, Dave. So yeah, as probably Dave said, right, most of the people on this webinar would be at least familiar what is CSV. A lot of people would feel that it is a mandatory regulation and to be performed and complied to international regulations. That is what it is, right? That is where the objective of this exercise is. But it's just not that. There's a lot of things that do come across when we do adopt and implement CSV, and that's what we're going to talk about today. There's an FDA definition, but what I've tried to say, restate validation as a means of proving that the requirements of a system have been defined in advance. It's a process. We need to have a defined set of user requirements when we work for any computer systems. We need to ensure that the system has been tested to prove that the requirements have been met. And the proof of each that each step has been completed by objective evidence in the form of documentation. So what we are trying to say, I'll just try to probably focus you on those bold letters on this image. Define in advance the requirements. So we are focusing on defined and approved user requirements. User requirements are the basis for any CSV project. Appropriate testing for those requirements, and then evidence available in the form of documentation, because yeah, CSV relies a lot on objective documentation. Now, the purpose of CSV, why do we do this? Why it's needed in the industry, right? So there's two threads to look at this, right? One is on the left hand side, where we feel that it's a mandate. You need to perform this in order to meet the international regulations, otherwise there's an impact of law. As I said, yes, that is the intention, but the other aspect of it is that it provides a lot of value to an entire project, right? If it's done properly, CSV ensures that the computer systems are reliable, they're secure, and they perform as the systems perform as they are intended to in real world. There's less operational failures, less regulatory penalties, and systems can work efficiently. That's the whole purpose of why we need a CSV. If done efficiently, it's just not a tick box exercise. It's crucial, right? That's why we do this, because failure in a computer system can lead to multiple issues in an organization, right? You can have data integrity issues, loss, alteration, or falsification of data. It can result in issues to product quality, which may result in incorrect drug formulations, contaminations, wrong dosing, which may ultimately lead to patient safety risks, medication errors, and diagnostic delays. We've seen incidences in the past where issues in CSV have led to deaths in the industry, right? We don't want that. It may also lead to operational disruptions, and may ultimately lead to regulatory non-compliance with product recalls and fines and regulatory penalties there.
Great. Thank you, Raul. And I think the emphasis here is really on obviously there's all the data integrity type of issues, the product quality type of issues. But when we start to talk about patient safety and drug safety, drug efficacy, I think that those are really critical items for computer system validation, as many of us rely on those drugs to keep our loved ones safe and out of harm's way. So it's a really important initiative to make sure that you get done correctly.
Yep, and with the non-compliance, you could see there's this regulatory fines and penalties that can be imposed by regulatory bodies, leading to warning letters, inspectional observations. It may lead to business and financial consequences with product delays, ultimately leading to criminal liability and personal consequences as well. So a lot of reputational integrity is at stake when the non-compliance with CSV happens, and that's why this is important.
Great. And when we work with your organization, we'll address all of these components to make sure that you're in strict compliance with all of these regulatory bodies, with the U.S. FDA, the MHRA, and other bodies, because we want you to avoid these pitfalls from non-compliance. Obviously, as what Raul just mentioned, with your reputation, product delays, loss of trust by the market, any sort of legal liability that you might have. These are all very important factors to make sure that you are in compliance. Obviously, the things around criminal liability and personal consequences, you can be held liable, but if it's done correctly, if it's done with an audit trail, if it's done with systematic kind of process, all of these kinds of things can be avoided. And the purpose here is to keep you out of these sort of negative areas and provide a positive outcome for the business. So we'll step into some challenges that we're seeing in the computer system validation industry at the moment. So Raul, can you speak to these?
Yeah, there's quite a few challenges in the industry around CSV, and some of them I've highlighted here. Systems are becoming more and more complex, more intricate, with cloud adaptation, AI playing a role in some of the systems. So validation efforts are exhaustive in these. The strategies have changed, and that's why it requires huge validation efforts. Evolving regulatory requirements in other area where you need to be on top of the changes and advances in the regulatory requirements. Adapting to those is a challenge. One of the other major issues in the industry is the inconsistent interpretation of standards. There's a lot of ambiguity, which may lead to exhaustive validation efforts, requiring a lot of resources and cost as well. Once you validate your system, if you've done the implementation, maintaining the validated state, which we'll talk about a little bit in the later slides, is a challenge as well. A lot of systems are on SaaS now with frequent upgrades. Catching up with that is a challenge as well. Unclear roles and definitions in a project across different functions: IT, QA, CSV, the business owners. That leads to ambiguity and unclear definitions. And managing old systems, the legacy systems are also, which have been which have been in the industry for quite some time, do not meet regulatory requirements as well. So that maintaining that is a challenge with adding additional layer of controls.
Great, thank you, Raul.
Now, I've tried to put together the entire CSV phases into these 5 different brackets. There's a lot of information in here. Probably won't be able to cover everything, but I just want to kind of put some focus. A lot of people or organizations that you speak to, they'll feel that CSV is just an IQ, OQ, and PQ. It's much more than that, right? It starts right from when the system is procured or commissioned. and it on goes. It's an activity that keeps on going even after the implementation with the periodic review and change control. I think with all the effort that you could put in initially in the concept and planning phase, a lot of the efforts can then be saved during your design and qualification phase. And that's where CSV needs to get involved right from the start, and they need to help us to ensure that the activities during the rest of the process becomes efficient. Um, the software categorization, that's critical. Doing a GAMP assessment and identifying your systems falls into which category is crucial, because that defines the overall validation strategy and the documentation required throughout the process. I think GXP impact assessment is another key area where you need to identify what are the areas of your system which are under GXP impact, and then focus more onto those areas for your dedicated validation efforts. ERES assessment is another key thing to ensure that you comply to the ERES regulations for FDA or EMA. For supplier assessment, the vendor's assessment is a crucial thing, because if you're working with a good and approved vendor, if they've got a QMS, they've got a robust SDLC methodology, a lot of documentation can be leveraged from your vendor. A lot of documents in your system design phase, be it an FRS, design spec, configuration books, your technical documentation around any custom objects, all of that can be leveraged. And hence the vendor assessment is crucial to ensure that you're working with an approved and a certified vendor. URS, and then doing a risk assessment. I think risk assessment is a key term all across a CSV process. Everything that we do is based on a risk assessment. So you need to identify your requirements, do a proper risk assessment. There's a lot of guidance available with ICHQ and Q9 principles. CIMA is one of the most used method in the industry. You do a assessment, ensure your systems and your requirements are categorized as high, medium, low, and then focus more on your high risk and critical areas. More dedicated validation efforts over there. A VMP to define all your strategy and how do you do it. So I think the planning phase is crucial, because if you are good in planning, we ensure that we understand what we need to do a proper risk assessment, categorize the requirements accordingly into GXP and non-GXP. It just eases the entire process. Your qualification becomes very easy. In terms of qualification as well, infrastructure qualification has become very important with the cloud world, with all this SaaS and all the systems moving to SaaS. I feel there's a feeling in the industry that the infrastructure is now a vendor's responsibility. It is, but as a user, it's still your responsibility to ensure that your data center provider are certified. They've got appropriate controls in place. They've got the SOC reports. They've got appropriate data backup and recovery processes in place to ensure that your data is secure, basically, right? So infrastructure qualification is key as well. IQ, as I said, if you're working with a good vendor, they would typically give you all of these documents to leverage. You can reduce your validation efforts over here. See, ideally, you don't want to repeat testing, right? If your vendor has done and developed system and they've tested all the key functions of the system, you can just leverage it and focus on your PQ or UAT phase, where you are testing your critical functions, your usage of the system, basically. And you top it up with your appropriate SOPs, user manuals. Training is another key factor. I've seen a lot of projects where everything is done, the system is implemented, qualified, fit for use, but we run into issues as soon as it goes live, because the training has not been done appropriately. Users doesn't know how to use the system, and hence training program is vital in a big CSV implementation project. And then on the release and maintenance phase, I think I would like to talk about a little bit about the periodic review and change control. We're going to talk about it later as well, but this is key. Anything, getting a system implemented, validated is just the job half done. I think the major part is to maintain the validated state with all the frequent upgrades and changes happening So that is crucial. We'll talk about it a little bit in the later slides. So whatever I just explained, this is what our implementation process is. This is how we adopt this, and this is how we implement it for our clients. Uh, we perform a risk assessment. We develop a validation strategy. We create a validation master plan. We work with the client teams, engage with them to help them write appropriate user requirements, testable requirements to cover the business areas. We help to deliver validation protocols, IQ, OQ, PQ. We help with our services for validation protocols execution and testing and summarizing it. And then we also maintain the validated state by providing our managed services and continuous validation as a service. Benefits are manifold. It reduces the implementation time because you're focusing on critical areas. For the less critical areas or low or medium risk, you've got other appropriate controls in place like SOPs and user control. This reduces your overall implementation time. During upgrades, you can reduce costs and time with focusing only on the changes, testing only on the changes rather than revalidating entire system and again and again. It helps you to achieve high quality and audit-ready deliverables because your documentation are frequently updated. They're up to date with the latest updates and changes. All are up to the latest versions. And yeah, it boosts the organization productivity as well if you're working on the latest version of the software, and all your documentations are audit ready. So yeah, risk-based approach, I think it's got a whole lot of benefits. Right. So continuous validation is a service. This is what I was referring to when I said periodic review and change control. Right. So why do we need a change control? Think with SaaS and cloud, even without SaaS as well. Softwares do get update, right? Uh, Whenever we get a frequent software update or patches, you need a change control to manage it. Configuration changes do happen. Database structure changes or change in the hardware or infrastructure triggers a change control. Or sometimes SOPs change, or there's a change to user requirements. All these factors lead to change control. And why do we need it? It's to maintain the validated state. You've done all the hard work to implement it. You don't want to have untracked changes in the system, and that's why we need to have these documented and tested. It ensures data integrity. There's traceability for any change that happens in the system after you've gone live. It maintains the regulatory compliance, and as I said, you do not want any consequences from untracked changes. This is our framework for rapid and accurate validation cycles. Frequent upgrade also helps to keep on top of the latest features and in your system, helps the user to reduce their downtime, work effectively, and it overall reduces your time and resources.
Great. And for the audience members, InspireXT does have a subscription program to help you maintain a continuous validated state where you can subscribe like you would with any other cloud service to make sure that your systems are continuously validated and maintained with proper integrity and traceability. So we'll speak about that just coming up in a couple of minutes as well.
Right. So this is our strategy for our service, as Dave mentioned, as a continuous validation as a service. Um, um, as I mentioned before, with SaaS systems, there's frequent upgrades, quarterly, sometimes monthly. With most of the systems moving on cloud now, the frequency of upgrade now relies with the vendor rather than the user. So the control is with the vendor, and this is what we propose or implement as a service. So we review all the changes. This is our standard methodology. We do an impact analysis, that if that change impacts us in any of the areas that we work. If it does, we do an impact assessment, a risk assessment of that change. We prioritize it based on the impact to data integrity, product quality, patient safety, the ICHQ 9 guidelines. We define it into a high, medium, and low risk item. Based on the criticality, we'll define the testing of it. If it's a high risk item, we would go ahead doing a positive, negative, and all different types of scenarios to test it out. If it's a medium category, we'll just do a positive test of it. And if it's a low risk, maybe a procedural control of an SOP update or user training should suffice that. So based on the criticality, we'll determine the testing needed for that. We have an automated test tool for which we have used to develop regression test suites, which we run as a part of any change, just to ensure that the core functionality is working as expected. There's no impact of that change to the core functionality of the system. We'll then summarize it, get it off, signed off, and that ensures that the validated state is achieved at the end. Okay, so coming to some of the best practices around CSV. This is some of it is my own personal experiences. Some of it I've understood working in the industry from other peers. Um, uh, if you start from the bottom, I think the critical process, I think testing is the basis of risk-based upgrade and testing, right? You need to focus as a user on testing your critical processes. And how do you do that? By leveraging your vendor documentation for all the generic COTS testing, and you focus on your usability and your critical processes, your configuration. Automated testing tools. I think a lot of I've worked both on traditional paper-based validation, and also worked on digital validation tools now. I think there's a huge reduction in manual effort if we adopt digital validation tools to get your plans created, to perform your test execution, create traceability matrices, have your evidence captured. The digital validation tools have made life so easy than a paper-based validation method. So I would highly recommend people moving to automated testing tools. Training program. People who work in a life science or a pharma area should understand what the need of CSV is. They need to be educated and understand the overall purpose of CSV. Control methodology, we just spoke about it. We need to have a better change control process in order to ensure that all the changes are tracked, controlled, documented, evidenced. Regular system upgrades ensures that the systems are up to date. The users are using the latest features, advancements to the system. Also helps to ensure the data integrity. And yeah, supplier assessment, as I said, it's very vital to work with a good vendor supplier to ensure that you have this trust on the documentation that they produce. You can leverage it and reduce your overall validation efforts.
Did you want to cover diverse team members in validation?
Yeah. So sorry, I missed that. I think so. Cross-functional teams, as I said, right? There's a lot of teams involved in a CSV project, right? It's IT, QA, CSV, business owners, global process owners. You need to educate the team about their responsibilities. It has to work in a cohesion. The clear responsibilities and goals helps ensure that everything moves smoothly.
Great, thank you, Ralph.
Yeah. So what's future looking like, right? We've done traditional validation of old on-prem systems for quite long, but with all these new advancements coming in, we've already looking at cloud computing and SaaS validation. It's taken over. A lot of on-prem systems are moving to cloud, software as a service. That has got its own flavor with infrastructure qualification coming in. It was always there, but I think with moving to cloud, it has added its own layer of complexity. With frequent upgrades coming in, you need to be on top of all the changes. So we are already seeing a lot of work in that area. AI and machine learning, I think there's still a lot of ambiguity in the industry of how this is going to impact the systems used in our life sciences and pharmaceutical area. There's a lot of guidance available, but I think we're still not clear on how do we utilize it. We're going to speak about this in one of the slides later about how InspireXT has own AI. We're using own AI platform. We've developed something which we can leverage and reduce, which can help to reduce a lot of documentation efforts in validation projects. Digital transformation, again, this is something which is coming up with a lot of intricate systems, AI systems coming in. It just lets you rethink your overall validation strategies of how the old traditional methods are going to encounter this. But this is again something which we'll have to think in future as well. The data, I think these huge volumes of data, exponential data that is coming in. There's already a lot of guidance available in terms of data validation in the industry with sampling techniques from ANSI, or there's a lot of comparator tools as well available to verify the data load activities, pre and post data load activities. But this still poses a big challenge. Data validation is still a big challenge in the industry at the minute. So I think a lot of focus and strategy needs to be kind of focused in that area also. So exciting times ahead if you're a CSV consultant. Okay, so responsible and ethical AI. This is something I'm very interested to talk about, and I think this is going to reshape some of the things that we do for or during a CSV project. We all know that when we speak about CSV, the first thing that comes to our mind is there's a lot of documentation to be created, a lot of plans, reports, scripts, protocols. I think what we have done at InspireXT using our natural AI and our a model is to create a document generator repository. It's a pilot stage. We are testing this out. What it'll do is to create some of the repeatable documents. So let's take an example of test scripts, right? You to create 100 requirements in a grade, you have to create 600 test scripts for those requirements. You just feed the scenarios and what you want to test, and this will create automatically test scripts for you. This is a machine, right? AI, it'll always do, it'll only do what it's trained to do, and that's why a human oversight is needed. So you've set up some benchmarks, we have set up what the expectations are. We'll always feed what we want the system to generate us for us, and there'll always be an ethical review and an accuracy check, and a human oversight will always be needed throughout. But I think using it responsibly will ensure that all the repetitive manual tasks of creating a huge volume of documents, particularly the test scripts, can be reduced to probably from months to days, if not hours. Using the language model, I think Dave will speak a little bit about it as well. This is secure as a user. This is not shared to the outside industry. This will sit with InspireXT. It will be secure. So there's no with the data integrity and security principles as well. We are following it in this.
Yeah, thank you, Raul, and that's spot on. I think when you're in a highly regulated industry, such as anything in life sciences, like we're speaking of during this webinar, it's very important to keep your data behind your firewall. So when you start to look at AI, and especially ChatGPT and Copilot and other Gen AI type programs, you don't want to expose your elements out to the public. So we're highly recommending leveraging private large language models. InspireXT has invested and developed into our own large language models specifically for these highly regulated industries that are should be a little bit cautious when using open source type AI solutions. And so we really want to make sure that you're behind a private domain, you're using private large language models, and you're still getting the document generation that's needed along with the training of the AI to make yourself more accurate, more productive in the future. So this is an area that we're very focused on. We feel we're very advanced compared to some of our other competitors that provide a similar service. And we have our own tools to support you with these sort of things. So if you do have some further questions around this, we'd be happy to answer them. And we can even, on our next, what Raul maybe didn't mention earlier is that we're going to have a series of these webinars around CSV, and the topic of AI is going to be a prevalent topic in one of those upcoming webinars that we have. And if I can just maybe step in here as well, our mission is to make you successful. And if you're challenged at all with any of your CSV processes, whether it's taking too long or you don't have the bandwidth, you're unable to comply completely with all the standards, or you don't have a sound process or governance around that process, we're here to help you. So the way that we go about helping our customers is, one, we try to understand what is at the heart of the matter. What is the root cause that's causing your organization pain around this particular process? And we can, when we define the problem statement, then we can go ahead and gain their shareholder trust. From there, we're going to develop an actionable plan designed to reach the business outcomes that you have laid out for this objectives. And we're an outcomes-based company. So when you start to work with us, you'll realize success is not measured by delivering the project. Success is measured by how well that project is executed and maintained moving forward past the go live date, because the idea here is to make sure that your systems are continuously validated. And the way we go about that is by assembling a really strong team. And that team consists of our experts teaming up with your experts and teaching and training your experts to run these sort of programs with as minimal intervention from a partner like us as possible. So this teaming concept is very important, because the team that works with us will carry forward any sort of initiatives that we start from an implementation and execution plan past the go live date. And as we execute, it's done flawlessly. We have really strong project management, a lot of discipline and ingenuity to help you get through this process. And that's really, I think, our mantra is we'll help you execute, because we understand all of the various challenges you're going to face. We've seen those kinds of things before in our cycles with our customers, and we can help you avoid some of those pitfalls. And once you go live after implementation, the job's not done. Going live is fantastic. It makes everyone, I think, feel good about what they've just accomplished by running through this plan. But maintaining and managing this validated state is where the rubber sort of hits the road. And that sort of management comes from working with you and your team, educating your teams on how to run these programs flawlessly. And then anytime you may need support, you still will have a support mechanism and being able to reach back into InspireXT should you run into challenges that you're having a hard time overcoming. And then always look to improve. Let's refine the process. As you go through validation cycles, you may note down a particular issue where that issue might repeat itself in the next validation cycle. Well, rather than having that continue and moving forward, let's refine the process, let's improve it, let's get the feedback from all the stakeholders and see if we can continue to make this an accelerated, accurate cycle that helps you to meet all your objectives. So working with a partner like us, I think, can help streamline your processes, help you adopt best practice, and address various challenges that you're going to have in your CSV processes. So if we can conclude, I think what we've talked about today is you're in a highly regulated organization. if you're in life sciences or pharma, medical device manufacturing, healthcare, and so forth. And you are subject to computer systems validation as mandated by the FDA, EMA, MHRA, and other regulatory bodies. So just because it's a law doesn't mean that it should be just something that you have to go through because of the motions. There should be some other factors here, because we need to make sure you're compliant to avoid heavy fines, prosecution, avoid any sort of reputational loss, and perhaps most importantly, make sure that drug efficacy and patient safety is at the top of the list as to why you're running through these CSV cycles. So having a solid foundation with a risk-based approach like we just described and following these best practices are going to be keys to your success. And we all know that our world is rapidly changing all the time. And not just from the regulatory changes that are coming about, but there's technology disruption with cloud adaptation, AI, ML, digital transformation, the explosiveness of data coming into the systems, and other disruptions that we haven't even contemplated yet are going to have CSV leaders rethink their strategy on how they need to address this particular process. So when working with a highly experienced CSV partner like InspireXT, we can actually help you accelerate your adoption for new technology, ensuring compliance against all this changing landscape, and actually help you lower operational costs. So these are really, I think, compelling reasons as to why you should re-examine your CSV process and perhaps bring us in to support you for that discussion. So what we'd like to offer you, we have a very limited offer here. It expires in about 3 months from today's date, but we are offering a no obligation, thorough CSV health check. And sometimes when you hear about organizations doing health checks, you might think of a high level assessment, a couple page document that you might receive. It may or may not have value, but our approach is different. Our approach gets into some of the weeds, some of the nuances, a lot of the pain that you're dealing with, and even helps to identify quick wins along the way so that you can implement those quick wins even during our health check process to streamline some of your CSV processes. And this whole health check, typically for an average size organization, might take 2 to 3 weeks. If your organization is a little bit more complex, it might take a little bit longer. So there are some restrictions applied to this offer, and we'll help to qualify your needs around this, but we certainly can support you regardless of the type of environment that you have. And what you'll get from the health check process is really a high quality findings and recommendations document. This will perform all of the health check components. So again, we'll identify those quick wins. We'll even put out what we would consider as an ideal future state or a vision for your CSV, along with a high-level roadmap that where you can start to take some actionable insights from our health check and deploy them almost right away. And at the end, we want to engage with your stakeholders by presenting to them all of these key findings. And I think with that, we will put this offer out there. We want to thank you very much for attending. It's been a very quick 45 minutes here. So both Raul and I, we're here to help. Here's our contact information. If you'd like to grab a screen share, please do that. You'll have our email address. You'll have my phone number. And here's some links that we can make available. So Prabal, if you can drop those links into the chat forum for our audience so they can grab those links and research a little bit more about the way we approach CSV, that would be great. And with the couple minutes we might have left here, I'd like to see if there's any questions that came in from the audience.
Yes. So thank you, Dave and Rahul, for taking us through the insightful journey into CSV. It was truly informative. We got a couple of interesting questions in the chat. I will read one by one. So the first question is, as a CSV testing operations professional, I am keen to understand how automation is leveraged in your validation processes. Specifically, could you please elaborate on the automation testing tools your team prefers for executing regression testing and reducing reliance on manual validation? Additionally, how do these tools align with the regulatory compliance, example, FDA 21 CFR Part 11, and what are the key matrices do you track to demonstrate their effectiveness in CSV projects?
So yeah, I'll probably speak briefly on that. Before using it for any CSV project, as we all know, right, we have to do the qualification of the tools. So we've done that qualification. We've gone through entire CSV project with itself, doing that vendor qualification for that tool. We've ensured that they've got an SDLC, they have appropriate design documentation. We did a qualification activity in-house as well to ensure that it meets our requirements of the tool. uh, and once they've qualified it, once we are happy with how the tool works as we intend it to, then we have leveraged it to automate our regression suite, the manual test that we have. Yeah, in terms of how it has helped its overall project timelines, you could see the regression testing, which typically used to take about what 2 weeks for us during our patch updates and software updates. It's now reduced to 3 days, and we are still trying to improve efficiencies with doing it probably overnight with more tools in place. So there's a lot of value, there's a lot of time savings. You need to implement it right, you need to do that that proper qualification of the tool to ensure that it suits the purpose, it meets the regulatory guidelines, the 21 CFR, as you mentioned. But you still, once that's done, once you have got documentation and approvals in place, it can be widely used to reduce a lot of validation efforts, particularly the repetitive manual testing tasks.
Thank you, Rahul. We have a couple of questions from Ashish. So the next question is, in this AI validation era, how we can validate AI model or system driven by AI model? As these models are learning continuously, how to manage this situation?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, right? Not a lot of people know about it. That how AI is going to uh, 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 what changes AI is going to bring in the life science and pharma space. Even the regulators are not sure at the minute, and the guidance documents are there. But I think, see, with any CSV project that we implement, right, it's risk based. So you need to see the areas that what AI can be used in. You don't want to start AI directly into manufacturing space, right? You need to identify areas, go ahead with the risk based assessment. And if, like the example that we gave, that we want to put in terms of document repository, creating documents for you, uh, definitely AI should be used in that. You do a risk assessment, and then appropriate measures should be there in place, and then that can be used. So accordingly, I think a lot of it still everybody is learning about how AI is going to reshape the validation strategies, but a lot of it will depend on what the area that the AI tools will be used in, the systems that AI will use, and what will be the in terms of the criticality of the system that this will be used.
And if I can add, we'd be happy to embark on a pilot with you and your organization around AI. And I think that that pilot can help prove out the model and the value case behind leveraging AI in CSV.
Okay. Thank you, Dave and Rahul. So the next question is, as a part of our CSV testing operations, we are keen on initiating a structured health check assessment for our computerized systems. Could you kindly elaborate on the engagement process within your team? Specifically, what are the key steps, prerequisites, and the timelines we should consider to ensure a smooth and effective assessment? Yes.
You want to take that, Dave?
Yes, absolutely. So, to get started with the health check, the best thing to do is let's set up an introduction call, understand a little bit better about your current state, some of the high level pain areas that you're having, so that we can develop a proper health check plan for you. During that, will obviously be some um, administrative documents that we'd have to get through, from a non-disclosure to a services agreement to perform this sort of health check for you. But the prerequisites will provide you with a prerequisites list of all the items that we'll need to have ahead of the health check, perhaps access to systems, and obviously access to the shareholders that are part of the environment. So going through the health check motions is really going to be one, planning it properly, getting the right stakeholders engaged, and then running through the motions of the health check and making sure that it's fits within your boundaries, your overall plans, and that we're able to run through all of those elements as cleanly as possible. Typically, the entirety of the program takes about 2 to 3 weeks. It might stretch a week beyond that as we're producing the documentation, but having some a basic access, as well as any sort of documentation that you've already have produced around your CSV processes, and maybe even walking us through some of your manual processes that you might have in place. Those will all be part of our assessment, and then coming out of that, we'll produce this findings and recommendations document that we'll share with your stakeholders as to what we've observed and ways that you can improve all of your CSV processes. So please just reach out to one of us, and we can go ahead and get that program started for you. Looking forward for that engagement. And I think with that, we probably are past our time allotted for the webinar. So again, we'd like to thank our audience. Thank you, Raul, for putting together this content. I know that it's been quite a good undertaking, but I believe that the audience have received quite a lot of value from your efforts here. So thank you, and thank you for the rest of our team for supporting this. And thank you, audience members, for joining us. We know that taking time out of your day is very crucial, and whether this is morning, afternoon, or evening for you, thank you very much. And with that, we'll bid a fond farewell for now and look forward to engagements in the future.